Hey, y'all, welcome to the 17th episode of the Better Leader podcast. Glad you're joining us today. I want to start by talking about something that is so captivating to me, and that is the NFL Draft. And it is so captivating to me because you essentially have these organizations, these teams, making multi-million-dollar investments that can drastically impact the future of their organization. And so there's so much research and so much studying that goes into what these picks are going to be. And you're looking not only at physical talent, but also the character of an individual, the IQ of an individual, how they interview. And so for me, it's a super captivating process because it is very unique to sports in that sense. And in athletics, you're looking so much of what matters is the physical aspect, probably more than in any other industry, is the physical talent of an individual, the talent of an individual, but also you're looking at the character. And what we saw from this year's draft is that character still matters, right? The way that you treat people and the way that I would say you show dignity, respect, and honor still matters. Now, I know there's a lot of different narratives about different athletes and the way they treated the process, but I want to highlight someone who really stood out to NFL executives, and that is wide receiver Emeka Egbuka. So Emeka Egbuka played at Ohio State University. He actually stayed and finished his senior year there where he was a team captain, a national champion. But when you hear about Emeka Egbuka, some of the things that stick out, I listened to a podcast with a guy named Albert Breer, who's an NFL insider, and he and his co-host, they were just going on and blown away by the maturity and how grounded Emeka Egbuka was and how that stood out to NFL teams. These are some of the things that are said about Emeka Egbuka, that he was selfless and team-oriented. He played a variety of positions within the wide receiver realm at Ohio State University. He was someone who caught a lot of passes and had a lot of production, but he also would block well and do things the right way. That carried over to obviously him being a team captain as well. He's someone who's disciplined and intelligent, and he leads through humility. He's rooted and he's grounded. And so that just really stuck out to me that, he ended up being the first-round pick of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, number 19 overall. And what's so interesting to me is just that people raved about his physical skill. Yes, obviously you have to have an immense amount of talent to be drafted in the first round, but they really highlighted just the way that he treated people and the way that he carried himself as a leader. And I would say that the way he approaches the game of football and perhaps life is maybe not the flashiest. It's probably not what's going to get you the most headlines. It's probably not going to increase your fame always in a rocket ship capacity and just kind of take off and gain a lot of influence in that way. But what I see is that these characteristics still matter. I believe if you took Emeka Egbuka and you took away his intangibles, there's no way he's a first-round pick just off skill alone. But it shows that your character, the way that you carry yourself, how you honor, respect, and treat other people with dignity, it still matters. And I do believe that's something that we struggle with in our culture currently because we are more of an individualistic society. We are oftentimes trying to elevate ourselves instead of looking at how can we elevate the people around us and how can we honor and respect the people around us. Now, you've probably all heard some sort of quote along the lines of respect is earned, not given. And I do believe that's true. I mean, I look at myself. I know that I want to earn respect from people around me. However, I don't agree with parts of that statement in that I do want to have a default position of respecting and honoring the people who are around me. So I certainly understand that I need to earn respect probably from other people, but I do want to have a default position of I'm going to respect and honor the people who are around me. And we've also kind of lost that in a sense of people who are in authority in our culture. We see that there's struggles with a varying degree of people in authority, whether it be in education, law enforcement, etc. But I do think that we would solve a lot of problems in our culture, in our businesses, in our organizations, on the team you coach, whatever you may lead, when we respect people first. I want to have a default position position of assuming the best about people and also of respecting and honoring them. One of the things I'm so grateful for is the church I get to lead within at High Street is we have multiple generations. There are individuals who are in our church who are 90 plus years old who have been at this church longer than I have actually been alive. And so what do I want to do for those people? I want to respect and honor them. I want to treat them with kindness, not just out of this idea of like, oh yeah, I just hope that I make them feel good. No, I want to respect and honor them because honestly, I wouldn't be in the role I'm in. I wouldn't have a place to attend and to grow in my faith if it wasn't for their investment and their faithfulness. And so I'm so thankful to have been in this setting because it's taught me how to better honor and respect people. And the leaders that I'm around on a regular basis have taught me what that looks like. And so I just want to challenge the thought process of respect is something you often have to earn from other people, but I do want to have a default position of respecting others. The second thing I want to talk about is the adrenaline rush that comes with disagreement. And if I'm being honest with you, when I look at my leadership, when I look at my leadership within my marriage or parenting, when I was coaching and teaching, or now serving in vocational ministry, this has been one of the hardest things for me to overcome is because I am oftentimes quick-tempered. And when this adrenaline rush kicks in from disagreement, it can be really hard to deal with. What do I mean by that? You've been in a conflict before, and as you're sitting and you're having a meeting or you're discussing, maybe you're coaching an athlete and there's a disagreement, or you're having a conversation with a parent or a loved one or a friend, and there's not unity in what's going on. There's a disagreement that takes place. What happens when people describe it as it makes my blood boil? What actually happening is your adrenaline response is kicking in. This is an actual physical thing that happens in your body. What's going to happen is your heart rate begins to increase and you're entering into fight or flight mode. Now, some people, if you're like me, you're more of a fighter. You're going to lean into the conflict and the conversation. And some people they're going to flee and they're going to remove themselves. You're going to shut down and distance whenever you feel this adrenaline kicking in. And so what happens is that this is a response that we have, not because we are in physical danger. That is something we face when we have the fight or flight reflex kicking in. But this is also something that we face when there's intellectual disagreement, because we can feel threatened that we're not going to be heard or that what we want the outcome to be in a situation is not going to happen. And so what can happen is we get defensive. So what do we do in these situations? I think that this is something that we need to understand is common to all people. It's common in every organization. It's common in every relationship. And so we have to learn to be able to navigate this. Now, I want to be honest with y'all. This is not something I could overcome on my own. For me, I have to lean into my faith and my relationship with God. That's the only way that I've been able to have victory in this area, because I need God to give me the self-control that I can't have on my own. And so I rely on that. Now, when I'm going into a situation and I know that there's potential for disagreement, one of the first things I want to do, not one of the first things, the first thing I want to do before entering into this conversation is I want to pray. I want to ask God to help me as I'm going to be having this conversation, because I know that left to my own devices, I struggle with self-control, being peaceable, being kind, and I need help in that area. And so I'm going to pray about this thing. The second thing I do is if I get in a situation and it's getting intense, is I need to remind myself to take a breath. Take a breath. And to slow down. And then I can respond with composure and in an appropriate way. Now, it's easy when you know a disagreement is coming. This is much harder to do when you don't see it coming. And what you know about being a leader in any situation and setting is that you often don't know when disagreement is coming. Someone else could be having a bad day, or they're going to unload something on you that's been bothering them for a while, and you're left having to deal with this. And how do you respond? And I want to just note that this is really challenging to do. And there are going to be times, if you're like me, where you don't don't get this right. And so how do you respond? Well, if I do respond poorly, is I want to note that and I want to apologize and I want to own what I need to own. Maybe I didn't instigate the situation. Maybe I didn't start it, but I can be sure that if I've responded poorly, if I've given full vent to my anger, that I'm going to need to apologize. This is against our human nature. It's certainly not something we want to do as leaders, but I can't tell you how many times I've been in a situation or setting, whether it's in my marriage or leading at work, where when I apologize, it has this way of actually unifying us stronger moving forward than if I would have said nothing at all. I don't need to come up with the best solution. I don't need to, come in and say, well, because you did this, this is why I responded. I need to come in and own my part and apologize when we get it wrong. So how do we get it right? Well, again, I've noted for me, I have to lean into my faith in order to be able to do this in an appropriate way, to respond appropriately. But I think the biggest thing that helps is just recognizing, hey, when is my adrenaline kick in? When am I susceptible? For me, I know that when I am busier, if I have a lot of speaking engagements, if I'm doing something new for the first time, I am more susceptible to this adrenaline spike and rush. And so I need to recognize, you need to learn your trigger signs and your warnings of when you might be susceptible. The second thing I want to do is I want to have a lot of grace towards other people and understanding that they might be bringing something to the table and they might be coming in hot with something. And I need to just hear it, listen, and process and be able to respond appropriately. When I slow down and remember, hey, this might be something that is very important to them, might be something that's bothering them. They might have had X, Y, and Z going on in their personal life. It's going to allow me to respond with grace. And then as I'm sitting there, I'm actually want to pay attention to the physical things that are happening to my body and recognize, okay, I'm getting really cranked up about this. Why is that the case? Why am I getting upset right now? And I need to recognize those things in order to maintain my composure. This is one of the hardest and most challenging things I've faced in my leadership and that I'll probably continue to face. But once I finally had a name for it, I was listening to a book with our staff team. And as I got a name for that adrenaline kick, it started to help me to be able to recognize this in myself, but also to be able to recognize that in other people as well. And I believe as you pay attention to that for your own leadership and in others, it's going to help you to be more effective and to make better decisions. The final thing I want to discuss is developing a better system for note-taking and organizing your files, resources, documents. And the reason I've been thinking about this is because I've been listening to a book by a man named Tiago Forte called Building a Second Brain. Really interesting title, Building a Second Brain. But this book has really helped me to basically get a little less sloppy in what I've been doing in terms of taking notes and also organizing the documents, resources, and files I have. And I think back, man, when I was coaching or when I was teaching and even with what I'm doing now, it's like I wish I would have had a better system in place for the last decade. But the time to start is right now. The first thing I've been challenged with is actually taking notes and organizing them. Now, I've always been someone who writes stuff down and have been pretty good with details naturally. But what I've noticed is like, man, I take in a lot of different information. We all have meetings and things we attend. I look back when I was coaching and how often did I do something? Maybe we had a very effective practice or drill, and then I didn't write it down. I didn't organize it in a way that I could pull back from that later. And so what I've started doing is something that is in my organization right now that we do all the time is host events. In the church world, we are hosting events all the time. And so what I've started forcing myself to do is actually after an event happens is taking time to write down, here's what went well, here's what didn't go well, here's what we could think about doing next time, here's how we need to promote better. All I do is I literally just dump those thoughts into a tool like ChatGPT, and then I let it organize and bullet point the notes for me. I then take it, put it in a Google Doc, and organize those things into folders. Now, for someone who speaks a lot, write messages and sermons, give leadership talks at a variety of places, I have team meetings that I attend, events that I help be a part of. I need to organize this in a better way because a lot of what I do is cyclical. It's going to come up in the next year, or I'm going to speak on the same topic again. And I want to be able to find these things in a quick method, like have a quick method where I can find these resources, but also a system where I know actually where to look. This might seem super basic to you. You might be like, wow, Logan, I already do that. Well, I'm just sitting here telling you that this is something that I didn't do well. And since I've started doing this, I've noticed that it's increased my effectiveness and efficiency when I'm looking for things, but it's also made me more effective in thinking through what went well and what didn't go well within certain events I'm a part of. And also it's helped me to categorize and look at where can I go and find information that I've already discussed and already looked at. And so what I want to challenge you with is to simply take more notes. Take more notes, reflect more on the things that you're doing, whatever it is. Maybe you're a coach and you just, you're reflecting on the game day routine you had one week, or you're in accounting and you're looking at, hey, during tax season, this is what happened. Maybe here's how we could be more effective or more efficient. You write those things down so that in the future you can look at them. And also, I think about how much just time in general I've wasted in looking for a file on my computer. I want to be challenged to start organizing things in a way where I have access whenever I need them. I want to use the tools that are in place so that there's actually a system there, so I'm being more efficient, and also that I'm storing this information that I might lose if I don't write it down. And so that's a super simple thing, but something that's been impactful for me is taking more notes and also developing a system for organizing them and reflecting upon the things that I have done. So I want to challenge you to do that as well. Well, I want to thank you for joining us for this episode of the Better Leader Podcast. We'll catch you next time for episode number 18.